Hi, my name is Asahi Pompey. I'm the Global Head of Corporate Engagement at Goldman Sachs. I'm also the President of the Goldman Sachs Foundation and President of Goldman Sachs Gives. And I also serve as the Chair of our Urban Investment Group. So messages that I received as a young person on women and money, I think really came from watching the women in my family and how they dealt with money. If you ask a poor woman how to deal with money, and she will make any amount of money stretch in the way that she needs to. So I saw the women, my mother and her 5 sisters, really sort of chart a course around making sure that each of the family units would really be able to stretch any dollar earned in the way that it needed to be done. It's interesting because as I think back on what were some of the early lessons on financial independence and independence more generally, it came from the grocery store. We went to the grocery store with my mother, and you would gather all the things in your cart like any other family, and you'd get to the checkout counter, and she knew how much money she had on her to spend that week on groceries. The essentials were put up front, and she would watch that number, and we all would. And there would be enough left that each person could put one thing they wanted over the line. And when that number hit, that was it. And so watching those lessons right there, you cannot have that experience and not know that every single, not just dollar, penny counted. Because the pennies were where I was able to get the thing I wanted. It's interesting because thinking about my family and sort of interactions with credit, it's one of the lessons that I've had to unlearn, which is being afraid of debt. My mother didn't have a credit card for a very long time. If you didn't have the money to get it, you didn't get it. And there was no need to have a credit card. And then we wanted to purchase a house, and they were like, well, you have no credit record. But I think that sort of understanding around financial instruments and debt in particular is a persistent issue that we see. You know, I'd go back to that point around being afraid of debt. I made some mistakes along the way. And as I look through those financial mistakes, it's still centered on this concern around not having debt or having as little debt as possible. And I remember, I'll tell you a short story. When I started working at my law firm, the law firm had a program where if you contributed to the 401k, they matched it dollar for dollar. Not up to a limit, but dollar for dollar. That's free money, my friends. Okay. But at the time, I had law school debt, which probably, I don't remember exactly, had an interest rate probably of like 2 or 3%. And I chose to pay off my law school debt because I didn't want to have debt, and passed up lots of free money of that match. And if I just done the math, it would have clearly showed that that was not the best decision. I think if I were to talk to my 20-year-old self, and I came out of law school, I was 24, you know, it's still around making sure that you're taking in new inputs in terms of your own financial freedom and independence, and challenging some of those strong-held assumptions and views around money and independence. Do the math, it'll show you the way.